What happens when you mix a bar siege, 1930s gangs, Mississippi Delta blues, and vampires? You get a bloody good time. Welcome back, horror fans. I'm Leo, and Bootube Breakdowns is here to save your scary movie night. Right off the bat, Sinner scores a 7.4 out of 10, landing it solidly in our Pumpkin King category. But here's the thing. I've already had to fight off an army of vampires to get you this score, and in a few minutes I'll show you exactly why Sinners earned this rating. If you disagree with my score at the end of the video, be sure to let me know how much you want to drive a stake through your loved one just to stop them from turning, and tell me all about it in the comment section. Sinners opens in 1932 Mississippi, where twin brothers Smoke and Stack return to rebuild their lives with stolen Chicago money and an old sawmill meant to become a juke joint. Things start smooth with soulful blues, local talent, and a mixed-race crew cooking up hope. But along comes Irish vampire Remick, stranded from Choctaw hunters, and things devolve fast into hoodoo, race rage, and bloodlust. The vampire concept crashes into Peaky Blinders-style mob grit when Remick starts converting clan members at the door. The party turns into a massacre as patrons turn and walls dripped red with betrayal. With the help of a conjurer, Smoke learns that the only cure is a stake, preferably through the vampire's heart. The final fight burns off at sunrise, like dramatic cosmic karma. But it's Sammy, the preacher's son turned blues prodigy, who carries the emotional weight of an axe guitar song that summons spirits. A time jump later, Sammy runs his own blues bar, and immortal Stack and Mary show up offering him eternity. But he passes. The last note, a confession that the night of violence was also the only real freedom he ever knew. The story here is layered like a well-seasoned cast iron, charred, rich, and heavy as hell. Two brothers returning home to build something out of stolen Chicago money? That's already a perfect setup. Their motives are clean, their baggage is messy, and the pacing lets you actually soak in what they are before things go to hell. And then comes the real soul of the film. Delta blues pouring like molasses over every frame, turning exposition into poetry. That alone would have been enough. But no, the movie tosses in a vampire. Because why just rebuild the South when you can bleed it dry again? Literally. Now, fair warning, some of the social commentary comes in swinging like a sledgehammer. We get it. White man destroys black community. And the Klan shootout at the end? Absolute cathartic indulgence for a black audience. You can cut it without damaging the plot, but it stays because spectacle sells. Still, even with its heavy-handed moments, the narrative stays tight, textured, and beautifully unafraid to get weird. Story gets a well-earned 10 out of 10. The pacing in Sinners is borderline miraculous. Here's what they pull off. 6 fully fleshed out main characters, all with unique and emotionally grounded backstories, meeting up in a bar that turns into a war zone. Because vampires. And not just generic bloodsuckers either, but vampires with lore and personality. The whole film doubles as an origin story for Sammy's facial scar and blues career, while juggling social commentary and never once dropping the ball. That's not just difficult, that's threading a needle with a chainsaw. Somehow, none of it feels bloated or confusing. The emotional beats land, the action hits, and the tone shifts smoothly between drama, horror, and cultural introspection without collapsing under its own weight. When the credits rolled, it wasn't relief I felt. It was disappointment that it was already over. Not because they rushed it, but because I genuinely wanted more time in that world. Pacing score, 10 out of 10, no hesitation. Let's get one thing straight. Just having vampires doesn't automatically make it a horror movie. I'm looking at you, Twilight. Sinners is a siege thriller with fangs. The fighters are 6 main leads. The fort, their freshly opened bar. The enemies, vampires. The prize, Sammy, and maybe their damned souls. This movie isn't trying to scare you, it's trying to entertain the hell out of you with vampires in the mix. No cheap scares, no boo moments for the sake of jump cuts and volume spikes. And honestly, I respect that. The vampires were monsters, not models. And the seductive aspect was more psychological than sexual. Thank God. Boo score lands at a light 2 out of 10, but mostly because of how terrifying the type of vampires shown in this movie really are. Now, I had a blast with this one. Michael B. Jordan pulled off double duty and actually gave us 2 distinct characters with different quirks and personalities. That's impressive. Most actors would have lazied their way through and called it a character study. Jordan actually did the work. The entire cast brought their A game. But if I had to hand out medals, Delta Slim and Remick are taking the gold. Delroy Lindo didn't play Delta Slim. He became Delta Slim. Every word out of his mouth felt like it had been soaked in moonshine, sorrow, and the Delta Sun. Then there's Remick, easily one of the best vampires I've seen in a decade. Smooth, theatrical, dangerous, and absolutely loving every second of the hunt. Dude could charm your grandma and eat your whole family before dessert. The blues soundtrack elevated everything, and even the social commentary, though occasionally a bit heavy-handed, fit naturally in the rhythm of the story. My only real gripe, Smoke pulling out a modern handgun in a scene set in the 1930s. Minor detail, but it yanked me out of the immersion for a second, and it happened multiple times. Still, easily a 9 out of 10 on the fun scale. How good the ending of Sinners is really depends on what kind of movie you thought you were watching. If you came in looking for a horror flick, the final act is pretty mid. The big bad vampire dies, Smoke gets into a high-energy bullet ballet with the clan, dies, and gets his emotional reunion with his wife and baby daughter in the afterlife. Stack survives, Sammy grows old and legendary, and the credits roll with a bittersweet tune. As an action drama with fangs, this is a clean, satisfying wrap-up. But if you're grading this on horror, it's a little too polite. It ends not with a scream, but with a respectful nod and a musical send-off. I liked it, don't get me wrong. It had closure, it had heart, but I didn't walk away rattled, disturbed, or even remotely spooked. The after-credits performance was a nice touch, but nothing in the final minutes screamed horror. So for that angle, the ending lands at a 6 out of 10. Solid, but safe. So that's Bootube Breakdowns' take on Sinners. Averaging our scores places this movie at a 7.4 out of 10, which lands it in our Pumpkin King category. Do you agree with my rating? Scream your score in the comments and tell me what horror flick I should gut next. If this saved your spooky vibes, smash that like, share with your horror crew, hit that notification bell, and subscribe to Bootube Breakdowns for more killer verdicts. Keep it creepy, and I'll haunt you in the next review.